Welcome students. In this video, we will study about federalism. Federalism means it's a system in which powers are divided between the central authority or the central ruling authority and the various constituent units of the country. That is, it's a system in which the powers are divided or power is shared between a central government and the various other constituent governments of the region. Federalism has certain key features. What are they? Let us have a look at some of these features. Federalism is actually referred to as existence of two or more tiers or forms of government. The different tiers of government, they govern the same citizens, but these tiers of government, they have their own jurisdiction, specifically when it comes to legislation, when it comes to taxation, and when it comes to administration. Like, we have different legislatures in India, the central legislature and the state legislatures. For taxation, we have some central taxes, the taxes which are imposed and collected by the central government, and the taxes which are imposed and collected by the state government. Similarly, we have government and we have administration operating at both central level as well as at the state level. The third feature of federalism is that the jurisdiction is specified. The jurisdiction of the different forms of different constituent units of government, the jurisdiction is specified in the constitution, and the authority and existence of these governments, it is guaranteed by the constitution. That is, it is guaranteed constitutionally and it is clearly written in the constitution. The fundamental provisions of constitution cannot be changed unilaterally. That is, no government can change, or the central government can change the provisions, the fundamental provisions of the constitution at its own will. It needs to be passed by the majority of the parliamentarians to get the amendments or the provisions changed from time to time as per the need of the hour. The courts, we have jurisdiction, we have courts, they have the power to interpret the constitution. That is, they can define the constitution from time to time and they have the power to interpret the powers of state as well as the central government. Federalism also aims at providing financial autonomy, as this financial autonomy is ensured by clear-cut indications of which type of taxes are to be imposed and collected, what will be the sources of revenue for the central government, or what will be the sources of revenue for the state government. That is, the financial autonomy is ensured as the sources of revenue are clearly specified for each level of government in the constitution. The constitution also safeguards, and this federalism also safeguards the dual objective. At one side, it safeguards and promotes unity, and on the other side, it also accommodates the regional diversity. That is, it brings about the entire regions to be seen and to be operated as a single country. Now, how the federalism is practiced, what are the roots? See, there are two types of federalism. First, which is by will, and second, which is by division. How? When so many independent states, they decide to join together and pool their sovereignty. Sovereignty, that is their own independent character, will be restored and it will be maintained, as well as they, when they make an association, and during this association there are chances that the small players or the small countries or the small constituents, sometimes they lose their identity. But in this federalism, this is a foremost characteristic. It is the small countries or small independent states, they come together, but their sovereignty is pooled, as well as their identity is retained in the new association. And by pooling their sovereignty, their security gets increased. So this is another root, as well as it's a characteristic, you can say. Second is holding together federation. What is this holding together federation? In this, large countries like ours, the countries, they decide to divide the powers between constituent states and the national government. Like we have in the previous chapter we have done power sharing. So this is a sort of power sharing. The powers are shared between different tiers or the levels of the government. Now I just told India is a federal country. So how we can say that India is federal in nature? So let's have a look about the federal nature of India. What features make it to be called as a federal country? It is the two-tier system of government which is provided by the constitution. That is, we have the central government and the state government. Secondly, the third tier of government, that is the local government, which is known as panchayat in the rural areas and as the local government or the municipalities in the urban areas or towns. The power, it is divided between government within three lists. We have three lists which are provided by the constitution: the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Where the union list, it looks after all the subjects which are concerned with the nation. That is, the subjects of national importance are included in the union list. And of course, as the name itself is suggesting, this list is basically for the union government or the central government. The state list includes all the subjects which are important for state and which are important for the localities which are lying or which are situated in the state. That is, all the matters, all the important matters which are related with the subjects of state and the which are important at local levels, all such matters are included in the state list. Then we have, since union and state, they are working together on the same land, where the share of state is limited and the share of union is extended up to the entire country. So there are some issues on which the state and center, they have to work in combinedly, they have to pool their efforts. So we have a concurrent list as provided by the constitution. In this list, subjects of common interest which are applicable to both central and state governments, all such matters are included in the concurrent list. So these are the key features which help us to determine the nature of federalism in India. Now we will see some features of Indian federalism. In these features, how they are different from the federalism which is adopted. Don't get confused, this refers to the features. How we can say India is federal is there, or what are the reasons for due to which we say that India is a federal country. This will be your answer, but here it is the features of Indian federalism. The first feature is all states, they have no equal power. See, India is a union of states. It's a dominion of states, and different states, they have their own regional disparities, they have their own different sizes, they have their own different populations, different number of people living there is different. So all the states, they have no equal power. The power sharing laws cannot be changed by the parliament on its own. Approval of both the houses, the upper house and the lower house, where the lower house is constituting of the people or the persons who are elected through general elections, and the upper house is the Rajya Sabha, where the persons or the members, they are elected according to the state, and they are also nominated as per their contribution to different fields of art, literature, sports. So the upper house and the lower house, the approval of both the houses is required for bringing about any change in the laws. Also, it is the judiciary that oversees, that is above all, judiciary is there that oversees and looks the implementation of the constitutional provisions, that is whatever provisions are given in the constitution or are mentioned in the constitution, whether they are implemented in a fair manner or not, that is looked after by the judiciary. Whatever procedures are there for running the government, the procedures are followed timely and properly in accordance with the directions which are laid in the constitution. The judiciary main work is to oversee all this. Now we have how the federalism is practiced in India from the time of independence. See, from independence, that is from 1947 till 90s, late 90s, new states have been created. How these states have been created? On the basis of the language and on the basis of culture, these new states have been created. Now we will see on the basis of language, what is the language policy in India. See, in India, the major population, it speaks Hindi, but it is the percentage is limited up to 40%. So we can't say ki it is only Hindi that is the most widely prevalent and used language by common people. There are other languages which differ from region to region, and that's why we can't say ki this language is going to be the national language. That's why when we see the language policy of India, since it is federal in nature, no language is considered as the national language. We have no national language like other countries they have, but instead we have official language, and that is due to its major stake in, out of the total population, that is around 40%. Hindi is considered as the official language of India, but the remaining 60%, there are, out of these remaining 60%, there are 21 other languages which are scheduled in the law and by the constitution. If anyone wants to appear for any central government's exam, they can choose from any of these 21 languages or Hindi, and they can write their exam in these 21 languages. Now what is decentralization? Decentralization refers to the division of power, that is, the power is not allowed to be vested in a single hand. It is distributed among different organs and different levels, at different levels. Now how it is done? See, so decentralization is the division of the powers between different levels of the government. Now how it is practiced in India? See, before 1992, there were local bodies, as I told you, where in the features of democracy, that we were having two tiers of government, but later on third tier, that is the local government, was also included. So before 1992, the local bodies, they were directly under control of state government. Regular elections of these local bodies were not held, and no resources or power of their own. These local governments, they were not having any resources and no such powers of their own. But after 1992, the situation changed. The constitution, when it was amended in 1992, so the amendments which were implied and which were applied, they were, first being, the regular elections were made mandatory to be held for electing the local government. For conducting the regular elections, independent state election commissions were created in each state respectively. Means every state is having his or her own state election commission that looks after the election of these local bodies. In the elections and in the local bodies, the seats for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other backward classes, they are made reserved. So reservation of seats for SC, ST and other backward classes is there. Also, 1/3 of all the posts or the positions, they are now reserved for women. Women are also given share in the power. The powers and the revenue, they are required to be shared by state government with local government. So these were the amendments brought about in constitution in 1992, and this made the local governments even more responsible as well as powerful in terms of power sharing, and that is what federalism ensures. Now we will study about local governments. See, local government, that is the government which is framed especially for an area, for a locality. It is not for the state, entire state. The entire state is divided into small localities, and for operating and running smoothly these localities, the local governments are made. So we have rural areas and the urban areas. Some states which are highly developed, they are having urban areas and no rural areas or less rural areas, whereas we have some states in which the development is, which are still in the phase of development. So in such states we have rural areas more in number and urban areas or towns less in number. So we have rural areas. In the rural areas we have the most common form of local government, which is also known as the Panchayati Raj system. In this we have the Gram Panchayat, which is the decision making body for the panchayat, for the village, and then many Gram Panchayats, they are clustered together, and this cluster or group of Gram Panchayats is known as the Panchayat Samiti or the Block Samiti or the Mandal. These Panchayat Samitis together, they are combined, and this cluster of Panchayat Samitis is known as the Zilla Parishad. So this is what we have. The powers, they are divided and how they are governed. Then in the urban areas we have corporations, the areas which are well developed and which are larger in size. In such areas we have corporations, whereas for smaller areas we have municipal corporations with their own resources of revenue and their own different powers. That's all we have for this chapter. The chapter is finished. In the next classes we will go with other chapters from geography as well as from civics. Thank you. Have a nice day.